Welcome to this episode of the Monday Minute. Hello, my name is Ken Freeman, and on this amazing Monday, how do you keep volunteers on the right track when emotions get in the way? What happens when volunteers have conflicts? What happens when feelings get hurt? What do you as a director do to solve the problem? Interpersonal relationships are critically important social connections, associations, and affiliations between people. And as the story goes, they vary in levels of depth and intimacy and cover different aspects such as friendship, where they work, and what they choose to do with their life. Where this comes into focus within your nonprofit is when volunteers or staff have a conflict. Words can be said that destroy the other person. Feelings can be hurt very deeply. These conflicts today could trigger deep scars from other hurts in the past that manifest sometimes in very explosive, unexplainable behavior. The problem is that no matter who you are, conflicts may arise and strain any relationship, and this is never truer than within your own volunteers and staff workers. In the nonprofit environment, trust and respect are two very hypercritical and very important elements necessary to maintaining healthy and harmonious relationships within your nonprofit. Conflicts normally arise due to the betrayal of trust between one or more persons in that relationship. And when there is a conflict, parties may resort to hurling harsh words or throwing shameful insults at one another, which may eventually lead to emotional stress and even emotional meltdown. That's why I want you to get today's report, complete detail of how to rebuild trust and respect within your center. Trust is the pillar which supports all relationships, and trust is built on honesty. Lies and gossip and innuendos are the culprits that breed distrust and suspicion in relationships, especially within an office. Lies, gossip, and innuendos should be taken very seriously because for every time a word is ill-spoken, the level of trust will drop and create more and more suspicion and or distrust and or disrespect between mutual parties. Eventually, the person who started the conflict will lose his or her credibility, and this will then put a strain on the relationship between the various parties within your office, and that will have an impact on the morale of the entire nonprofit office. In today's modern society of heightened stress and competition, such things as lies, gossip, and smear that we hear the politicians using are inevitable when they come back in to the center. They've heard it on the media, they see it in their homes, now they come into the center, and it occurs in your center. Insecure people tend to tear down other people in an effort to make them feel better about themselves. Conflict to some people is a friend. Some of them might even see this as a way to evade trouble and protect their own self or their own position. A person who has his trust misplaced before may have difficulty trusting people again, and therefore, with regard to these multiple interpersonal relationships that go on in a nonprofit office, once there is zero trust between two parties, the relationships fail. And honesty is always the best policy, but what can you do to smooth over these ruffled feathers when they do occur? We know that words make a difference. We know that you must rebuild trust. And sometimes people just can't trust anymore. They've been too badly hurt, or they can't bear to be that vulnerable again. That's understandable. But if you're willing to build trust in a relationship again, then these tips may help your staff and your volunteers get back on the right track. Number one, learn to really trust yourself. If you don't trust yourself, meaning your ability to have good judgment and to make good choices, how can you trust someone else? So having confidence in yourself will help you make better choices. You need to grieve. When a loved one dies, the natural grieving process tends to come in the 5 stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Well, you need to realize that when we break a relationship, when we've been hurt on the job, that these 5 stages of grieving may still kick in. So don't fight any of the stages, but regard them as essential stages for regaining trust. Number 3, you need to stop labeling yourself as the victim. If you've been betrayed, you are the victim of your circumstance, but there's a big difference between being a victim and living with a victim mentality. At some point in all of our lives, we've all been violated, we've all been harmed, And we have to get over it. We have to go beyond it. And you actually have to have more control over what you think. Number 4, you didn't lose everything. You know, when we are severely betrayed, such as being cheated on in a relationship, or someone has said something very hateful or maligning to us, once that trust is lost, what is left? Well, instead of looking at the situation as hopeless, then look at it that you have still a lot to be thankful for, and all of the good and the positive side of what's going on in the office. So seeing the positive side of things doesn't mean you have to ignore what happened, but instead having a healthy way to work through that experience to allow room for a positive growth and forgiveness. Anytime there is jealousy, there is a compromise in relationship. There will always be different degrees of jealousy, but there's only one way to handle it to make all the difference, and that is for the person who is jealous to grow up. Number 6, you need to learn how to say I'm sorry. Apologies in a broken relationship are a powerful thing when they are done the right way. And then number 7, what we say, when we say it, and how we say it really matters when we're dealing with forgiveness. Without question, the failure to adequately acknowledge the offense is one of the main ingredients of an apology. We have to acknowledge what happened. Admitting a wrongdoing involves expressing remorse, recognizing how you have been hurt or how you have hurt someone else. And then number 8, never use the word but. In other words, you can acknowledge how they are feeling, but then don't continue by saying but and then taking them back to the blame that you have for them. Remember, your actions also speak louder than your words, and you always need to, number 9, realize that the timing is everything, especially when it comes to saying you're sorry. You need to let the other person have a chance to get angry at you and give yourself time to really digest the pain or humiliation that you've caused. But then, when it's time to apologize, you need to articulate your remorse more clearly and discuss what amends are needed. Remember, it's never too late to say I'm sorry. When your first goal is to lift the burden from the person you've hurt, an apology can heal your emotional wounds too. And while you're taking a risk, if you will base your words on these principles and truly seek God's forgiveness, you will be more successful in repairing broken relationships. This is why I want you to click Send My Free Report to get Repairing Broken Relationships, a free 9-page report that I believe will help you overcome these problems in your nonprofit center. Tell a friend, won't you, about Monday Minute, and listen again next week when I'll bring you another episode of the Monday Minute. Until we meet again really, really soon, this is Ken Freeman saying thank you for listening.